subscribe to the content that we're putting out, please make it official. Hit that sub button, leave a like, and put a headlock on that notification bell. And just in case you haven't seen this week's finale, or you like being spoiled, it's a quicker sit. Hey, get ready for some major spoilers from here on out. Alright, really quickly, we initially set out to cover the important details of these last 2 episodes as 2 separate videos for that maximum effect, because after all, they have 2 different titles. But we'll just do these last 2 episodes as one, and then the following week drop a definitive Season 7 examination packed with those essential details that we know a S.H.I.E.L.D. fan needs. So right out of the gate, we dive right back into the events of the last episode as Mack, Daisy, and Sousa attempt to dock onto the Zephyr 1 in order to rescue Jemma and Deke. And as you can tell, the showrunners wanted to keep the tension really high by the way that the opening credits are arranged. Now, despite being tractor beamed aboard the Chronicom ship, is anyone getting any certain vibes yet? Anyone? Once they are fully ushered in, it is virtually a ghost town, even during the search of the Z1 and also as they head out in search of Jemma and Deke. This is mainly due to Sybyl's percentages not being in favor of the teen's line of behavior, and stands as one of the few decisions that ultimately swings the odds in favor of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nathaniel Malik and Sibyl finally meet face to face for the first time, but not before injecting Jemma with some kind of techno virus to dissolve the implant. Nathaniel exchanges pleasantries about all but defeating S.H.I.E.L.D., even though the lighthouse still stands. And it is here that we learn that it is impenetrable to external attacks, filling in that gap that might have been lingering in some people's minds. And as much as Malik admires Sibyl and believes that Jemma has lost all of her memory of fits, Sibyl is still straightforward in communicating that only by stopping fits can they both secure their futures. Now, as we cut back to Phil, May, and Yo-Yo, Phil is seen staring at the readout in amazement at the realization that every S.H.I.E.L.D. asset is in ruin. May, who is strong in the force, is in an empathic overload, can feel the impact of those obviously reeling from the loss of their loved ones. Before they can get a full grasp of things, however, a strange signal of some sort blares over the speakers, leading May and Yo-Yo to head out to implement security protocols. But around the same time, young Garrett has teleported in to bring the lighthouse down from the inside out. They catch a glimpse of Garrett and his installations of the chronobombs, as Phil likes to call them, which leads them to devise a plan to use a variation of the same device that was used to trap Gordon in a different timeline back in Season 2. Now, Phil figured that Garrett's next position to place bombs would fall in line with the structural integrity of the base, then marks the spot with an X just for good measure. Garrett assumes that he can still teleport out despite shackles just put on by Yo-Yo, but soon learns he's grounded. And since being grounded, Garrett radios in to Malik to deactivate the bombs, but Malik writes him off, bidding him farewell. But just before the bombs blow, Yo-Yo manages to speed run them into one spot, minimizing the damage of the explosions. Now, back aboard the Chronicom ship, Cora questions Malik about their involvement with the Chronicons, which was new news to her, and also about the death of her mother at his hands. Malik, though very subtly, tries to manipulate Cora, assuring her that it was her mother that was in fact manipulating her. Then we cut to Jemma and Deke as he tries to recover Jemma's dwindling memory. Deke does a weird and awkwardly funny impression of Fitz, but to no avail. Meanwhile, Mack, Daisy, and Sousa make plans to depart to Zephyr 1 in search of Jemma and Deke. But before Daisy leaves, Sousa gives Daisy a much welcomed and unexpected kiss. Mack offers his opinion to Sousa.
Impressive. Most impressive.
Then afterwards, the two try to figure out their next move, as Sibyl informs them that despite their presence being an anomaly, they have already lost. Shortly afterwards, Daisy, who goes virtually and eerily undetected, finds Jemma and Deke, and as we cut back to Mack and Sousa firing missiles at the hangar doors, knowing there's no more need to be quiet, but proving to be ineffective. But this is where Sousa, despite being the man out of time, shines. Recalls his time from Area 51 when S.H.I.E.L.D. showed up, and also that Chronicons have powerful explosive capabilities, and the two begin to rig them to detonate. We cut back to Daisy, Jemma, and Deke as they turn a corner, running dead into Cora, and this is where things get really intriguing. Elsewhere in the ship, Sibyl lies in wait, anticipating Jemma spilling the beans about Fitz's status, knowing full well that Cora could ruin the moment. And when she does, she blames Malik. And Daisy later on shows Cora that regardless of what Malik has tried to tell her about her sister, Daisy will not fight her. Confused, Cora lets her guard down and Daisy to leave. Once everyone is aboard the Z1, Mack fires the rigged up Chronicons at the hangar doors and blows a massive hole into the Chronicon ship, allowing our team to go free. As we jump back to the lighthouse, Phil and May have not only managed to save young Garrett and treat his wounds, but have also deciphered the strange signal. It turns out to be an 084. Now this nomenclature actually brings it all full circle from having dealt with one since the second episode of the show. And also, Yo-Yo injures herself by running into some rebar in a darkened portion of the wreckage, searching for a way out. And it turns out they're trapped. Garrett, feeling betrayed by Malik, offers to switch sides and gives them their only ticket out, teleporting the team to the location of the source of the 084. When they jump, they arrive at the old familiar speakeasy that has been with us in nearly every episode of this season, and it's the same place we met young Garrett for the first time. And unfortunately, it's the last place we see him. He's shot down for reaching for his gun. It's just mere moments after they arrive. Now, right after they throw young Garrett under the bus, passing around phrases like double agent and doing the world a favor, and also a younger Victoria Hand cameo to boot, things get really cool. Phil tells the captive audience specific details about the 084 code, putting the crowd at ease. Each member of S.H.I.E.L.D. who has made it to the speakeasy has brought with them a mysterious heirloom that's been in their family for generations, with specific instructions to not open said package. But it would seem that the time to open them is at hand. And shortly after revealing the contents of the packages, right on cue, Matt and Daisy, Jemma and Deke arrive, and Jemma, despite her fuzzy memory, begins to arrange the pieces by sheer muscle memory alone. Once completed, she senses that a final piece is missing, just as the last contributor, an older gentleman, shows up apologizing for being late. But his arrival fills in a crucial piece of the puzzle, as the older man mentions Enoch and the Koenig brothers. Now we quickly find out the piece he was entrusted with is a common tuning fork, and once it is struck, opens up a secret compartment, which at the time while I was watching only seemed to raise more questions. However, once the device is placed inside, Jemma, who has been rambling on about matrimony, places her ring in the device, activating a wormhole, and then a figure warps into the room, revealing himself to be none other than Fizz. Now, unbeknownst to the Chronicons, or more specifically Sibyl, the reason behind the newly developed anomaly stems from the outcome of the very next phase of S.H.I.E.L.D's plan. And honestly, it was at this portion and the very next one that I think it was becoming slightly more clear as to how the time stream works. But more on that when we get to our Season 7 examination. Malik states that he wants hunters to go seek out the remaining members of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Sibyl tells him that the odds aren't in his favor, but does read that there's a 100% probability that S.H.I.E.L.D. won't be a team anymore, thinking that she will win. Now back at the speakeasy, despite just having Fitz literally appear out of thin air, Jemma still doesn't recognize her husband, and the team has serious issue with the lack of his presence and answers. He mentions that he's seen countless outcomes, as well as telling the team that by returning to their original timeline, that they can fix the current one that they're in. But most importantly, that Cora is pivotal to the outcome of the plan. Phil doesn't want to abandon a crippled S.H.I.E.L.D. as well as a helpless world to the impending Chronicom invasion. Deke, while studying the quantum field generator, comes up with a plan to use the New York City power grid to expand the wormhole and pull the Chronicons through to the original timeline. Now Fitz does mention how much power it would require.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts!
But you know how these things go in TV shows. They would have to leave someone behind in order to pull the lever on their power grid. Sousa tries to volunteer, but Deke, who has become a rock god in the 80s and the only one with the technical know-how to complete the task at hand, volunteers with no further questions asked. And once the Z1 sees the Chronicom fleet, they fly towards them, pulling everyone into the quantum realm. And after the maneuver, Agent Gamble and the remnants of S.H.I.E.L.D. have just acquired a new director, him being none other than Deke. Shortly after entering the quantum realm, as Fitz begins to draw a line through what Jemma remembers to reconnect her shattered memory, we the audience are led on that same journey. It is here that we are finally given the true account of what happened during the events of Season 6, which technically starts at the tail end of episode 12 of that same season. And likewise, we'll also give a bit more context to what happens at the latter end of this finale as well. So during the lighthouse invasion in episode 13 of Season 6, Jemma and Fitz were determined to not let the Chronicons get hold of S.H.I.E.L.D's vital information and were prepared to blow themselves up in order to do so. But it was cut short by Enoch, who was already devising a plan to not only save the Chronicons, but S.H.I.E.L.D as well. Now we don't know exactly how or when, but I'm sure it's safe to reason that between the time Enoch was attacked by one of his reassigned anthropologist brothers and the time he met up with Jemma and Fitz, he had managed to somehow assume the identity of his attacker and steal a copy of the time stream. Now this is very key, because this bit of information demystifies how the Chronicons have been able to know vital details about S.H.I.E.L.D. Likewise, it explains how Fitz and Enoch knew certain details about the team's fate as well. So just before leaving to go to the constellation Theta Serpentis, they briefly meet up with Agent Piper and Flint just outside of the temple, and Flint uses his Terrigenesis powers to form a small piece of the Time Stone, allowing Enoch, Jemma, and Fitz to rush off to carry out their plans. Now it is during this time of seclusion that Fitz uses the virtual space framework headpiece, earlier name dropped by Coulson by the way, to study the time stream in a way that is reminiscent of Doctor Strange. The three also built a life model decoy of film, as well as developed the time drive, which as we find out is actually powered by a piece of the time stone formed by Flint. And since Fitz wasn't able to handle the implant, Jemma had inevitably become the one to contain all of the secrets via the implant. And I'm sure at this point, this is where Enoch would have been programmed as well, therefore leaving Fitz to be tasked to carry out his portion of the plan from the quantum realm. Now here's where it gets, for the lack of a better word, bananas. Once Jemma, Fitz, and Enoch jump back to the moment that they left just outside of the temple, the current S.H.I.E.L.D team has gotten back just moments before they arrived from the quantum realm. The team splits up. Yo-Yo, Sousa, Fitz, and Present Jemma becomes part of the blue-suited cleanup team that accompanies Jemma at the end of Season 6. Mack, Phil, May, and Daisy head off to confront S.H.I.E.L.D aboard her ship. And the craziest part about this is, the missiles that were fired at the Z1 that jumps back to 1920 New York was actually fired by Silver from the alternate future. That is crazy. Now after Sibyl fires on the OG timeline Z1, which marks the actual moment at which Fitz enters the quantum realm, she's told that there's no sign of it, but Sibyl knows better. Once aboard the Chronicom ship, the team separates in order to execute their plan. Phil is found by Sibyl, and she actually lifts him into the air before taking him captive. And Daisy meets up with an OP Nathaniel Malik, who has siphoned off of some of Korra's powers. Meanwhile, as the rest of the team takes back the lighthouse, Yo-Yo finally gets her cool moment as she takes out the remaining Chronicons. And once they get to the control center, Jemma remembers what they're fighting for. Daisy and Malik continue to go at it, proving himself to be a S.H.I.E.L.D historian, but as we later find out, not as thorough as he should have been. Mack grabs Korra, and as we cut back to Phil and Sibyl, it would seem that after causing so many problems for the Chronicons, she's getting a kick out of punishing Phil. She promises to repurpose Phil and tells him that she'll soon be able to control Phil remotely, just the same way that she controls the Hunters. Phil tells Sibyl that they've won. There's a lot of that going on in this finale, by the way, and that they've retaken the lighthouse. So Sibyl in turn activates the control module and directs the Hunter to that location, but she's played into S.H.I.E.L.D's hand, because by doing so, she has activated the authorization code within the control module. This cues May, aka the Cavalry, to drop in, knocking Sibyl to the side and allowing Korra later on to amp the frequency of the next command into the control module by May with her empathic powers. She returns the Chronicons who have been repurposed ever since episode 12 of season 6 back to their normal selves, one of which repeats Enoch's line, coined in the episode, "As I have always been." Now as the team prepares to leave, Malik tells Daisy about the Chronicom fleet who stands poised to fire on the Earth. He He also tells her that she can't kill him without killing herself, and that seemed to be the plan all along. She unleashes her full powers, rupturing the radioactive cells and decimating the fleet once and for all. They find Daisy adrift in space, and Cora revives her sister with her powers, fulfilling her vital role that Fitz foreshadowed earlier. And after returning to Earth, Jim and Fitz reunite with their daughter. Yes, their daughter. It appears that Fitzsimmons has been working on more than just time drives, who's kept secret above all else, and who Jim and Fitz have been fighting for all along. So we fast forward a year and we meet back up with our team one final time. And true to the time stream prediction, even though it appears that they're sharing the same space, at the old speakeasy, they're actually in a framework type virtual space with upgraded interfaces. And as they sit around and catch up with each other, we quickly learn that Yo-Yo and Mack are on assignment together, and that Yo-Yo has become their most decorated agent. And if you've been watching the breakdowns here at Content Meta, you obviously know we were pleased to hear that little tidbit. Jemma and Fitz are on a picnic with Aya, and though Jemma becomes intrigued about the details of Mack's mission, he replies that the mission is classified. Yes, Jemma and Fitz have retired, becoming civilians, and I think it's a fitting way to end their arc. And before I continue on, let me just say, there is no way in which I can recount this group meeting in the manner in which it plays out. The actors came off as if they're genuinely happy to be in each other's company, and there's a tangible warmth that comes off the screen. Now, they do a little bit more reminiscing of Alia and mentioning Deke, who's in the alternate timeline, and the team slowly begins to depart one by one, saying their goodbyes and promising to make it an annual ritual. Yo-Yo leads back into the real world first, and we get a surprise visit from Agent Davis, who died by S.H.I.E.L.D. possessing him in Season 6, and has returned as an LMD, and is partnered up with Agent Piper. Mack is in charge of a helicarrier, and May, along with Flint, head into their lecture at the Coulson Academy. Daisy and Coulson are the last two that linger, and Daisy eventually returns to the Z3 in deep space, with Sousa and her sister Cora aboard. Phil, who was given a packet by Mack in the real world, was told that the combination is 136, or the total number of episodes in the show's entire run. And the packet in question are the keys to a souped-up, new improved version of Lola. And Coulson, who ends the pilot episode of the first season, does the same to end the series, flying off with Lola. So like I said before, there's a lot more details to unpack, which we'll cover in our Season 7 examination. We hope you've enjoyed this show as much as we have, and we would also like to thank you for going on this journey with us. Stay tuned in the Content Metas. We hope to grow to the point where we'll be able to give back and support those who watch the channel, and we're certainly striving to make giving back a regular thing. So, as always, until then, see you then.